Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 235, and we're closing in on the end of the month. Wake me up when September ends. I'm sure some of you feel that way, but I hope for all of us here that you're having an amazing weekend so far and that you've had an amazing month. And I appreciate and I'm so grateful for what our community is doing amongst the chaos happening all around us. It truly feels like we are the calm amongst that chaos. And that's something that I'm extremely grateful for, to be a part of our wolfpack here, truly. And now that we've made it through the partial solar eclipse on the Hebrew New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and we've of course now seen the way that event has impacted the crypto market, I just wanted to quickly revisit what I said at the very beginning of last week's Red Pill. During that intro, I said, quote, "In the past 3 Red Pills, going back to Red Pill number 231, some of you likely remember me sharing my thesis on a post-FOMC sell-off, specifically tied to Rosh Hashanah. And when we look at the charts here today, we'll see that a notable correction happened during Rosh Hashanah, which was September 22nd through 24th, and this correction has even continued further into the end of this week. Then in last week's Red Pill, after mentioning my expectations for this week that we just traded through, I went on to say, quote, "I am not expecting an end of the bull run market crash, but I am expecting a sell-off." And I finished that off by saying, regardless of what happens over the rest of this month of September, I'm still expecting mid to late October to be a new all-time high for Bitcoin, entering price discovery at least one more time, which then leads to what we're all patiently waiting for, alt season. So now that we've had this correction through Rosh Hashanah, hitting our downside targets and actually extending a little bit further than what we anticipated after we filled this CME gap at the exact time that we expected it to happen, this shows there's definitely a method to my madness, and I hope all of you here appreciate the level of accuracy in determining these crucial pivots up to a month before they happen with exact date ranges. And now that we're seeing Bitcoin returning back to these levels whilst we're less than a week out from that key date that I revealed to you in last week's Decode, that would have been October 3rd, which is this upcoming Friday. This means we have a pivotal week ahead as we push closer to the October full moon on October 6th, the Hunter's Moon, which will be coming up the following Monday. And I've had marked that exact date on the charts right over here over a month ago during a Red Pill podcast. So we'll be focusing on this in today's podcast, as well as clearing up any confusion you might have regarding where we're at in the cycle, because it's become apparent lately that many are starting to capitulate and get worried during the month where, out of all months, we actually see this happen every time. It's not weird to see a weak September. And I've spoken about this with you all, got pretty much all year with you guys, showing you this seasonality chart, for example, and how the only real red month Bitcoin typically has historically is September. But pause and take a moment to look ahead at what October and November typically have in store for us. And with the astrological lineup we have coming soon, the esoteric supports this exoteric data that I'm showing you here. So as you could all imagine, we have a jam-packed podcast ahead, so let's get straight into it. But quickly, before we get started, make sure to get relaxed, get comfortable, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's a little earlier in the day, or a glass of wine or beer or any beverage of your choice if it's getting a little later out there in the Matrix. I'm just going with some plain water today. And also make sure to comment below this post here on Patreon to vote on the altcoins that you'd like me to cover in next week's Red Pill podcast. But please, before you leave a comment, just make sure that you used the search function here on Patreon to search through my posts here to check that I have not covered the project in at least 3 full months. So if it's been over 3 months since I've reviewed that altcoin, or in the event that I've never covered that altcoin before, as long as it has at least 1 year of chart history here on TradingView, you can go ahead and comment below with the name of the altcoin, and please include the ticker symbol next to it as well. And whatever submissions get the most likes, those top 4 projects will be selected for next week's Red Pill. Now, I want to kick this off today by showing you this chart here. It'll be the first time I ever share this because I created it this morning. I believe this will provide our community with a ton of value here at the very start of our podcast today, which I did last week as well. I just immediately started it off with the intro telling you exactly how I felt for the week ahead, and look at how it went down. I'm going to try to do that moving forward. So this summary of my overall thoughts can just be shared immediately, and then we can unpack it all as we go. I believe you guys really appreciate that. So what I'm about to review with you here focuses on solely the month of October, the month we're about to move into in just a couple days. And we're specifically analyzing the performance for this particular month of October in the Bitcoin chart, of course, to get a general overview of the crypto market during this month ahead. So really quickly, I'm just going to go through this, sharing the fact that I have marked off, by the way, we're on the monthly chart, I have marked off every single October going back to the beginning of Bitcoin trading publicly. You can see this will be October 2010. And what we're seeing is that 11 out of 15 Octobers are green. 4 out of those 15 Octobers naturally are red. Now, 3 out of those 4 that are red happened in the first 5 years of Bitcoin trading. So they happened in the early days of Bitcoin. And for the past 6 years, so 6 years straight, we've had Octobers are green. And only one example we've had that is a red October happened during the same year as an all-time high, which I think is really important to point out because we're currently in an all-time high for Bitcoin. We're trading in price discovery, and we're still in a bull trend. As you can see, we have yet to break trend. We're trading at about 109K as I speak. So the only example that we had a red October during the same year, same calendar year, as an all-time high was 2011, guys. This was back at the beginning. As you can see here, Bitcoin effectively launched at like a fraction of a penny, and it went straight to $30, which is pretty unbelievable. You know, like, I mean, if we can ever see that again, it would be pretty awesome. But Bitcoin did it all the way back then. And that was also the last time that we had a red October in the same year as we had an all-time high, technically. You can see over here, we have a green October in all-time highs, and then the following one would be happening in October 2014, right? And anyways, I just thought to pull that out because it could be significant for what we're dealing with here today. As for what else I'm about to break down for you all. So some of you now might want to know, well, what are our expectations for this upcoming month of October? And what I did was I tracked these past 6 years where October was green, and we can see an average performance of about 20% gains. It's pretty wild. And the largest percentage gains happened in 2021, which is right here. You can see 40%. Followed by the October of 2017, which was 48.5%, and also the 2013 October, which was 59%. What do those 3 examples have in common of being the largest percentage gains during that October? Well, they're all 4 years apart. And here we are in 2025. We are 4 years from the last example. And what's fascinating about those 3 examples that I isolated is that they all have an average gain of about 49%. It's almost 50% gains we're seeing in the month of October in those 3 iterations. And the lowest out of those 3 would have been last cycle in 2021, where we had a 40% gain. Still unbelievable, right? To see that happen. So just keep this stuff in mind because 2025 could be an Uptober. And that's what I'm going to finish this off with saying. I did put a question mark next to it because, of course, we can't just be making these bold claims. We have quite a bit to unpack here. There's more to the story, and that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of today's Red Pill. So, because this upcoming October here in 2025 aligns with that 4-year pattern, with our last example being in 2021, the example prior also being 2017, and then, of course, the first true cycle for Bitcoin and the entire crypto market dating back to 2013, which happens to all be 4 years apart, example to the following example. And that 2013 example, by the way, is specifically important since that was the last year of the snake. And here we are here in 2025, and it is in fact the year of the snake, with the last one being through 2013, as I just said moments ago. So that's definitely important to consider. And having a rocky September, just like we did back in September 2013, and also just like we did in our last cycle in September 2021, this is making everything seem very cyclical, isn't it? So Bitcoin closed off the month of September back in 2021 down 7%. You could see that right there when I hover. You'll see it's down 7% exactly. And remember, it happened in September, and the prefix septem means 7 in Latin. And this was also the month that kicked off the Shemitah year, the 7-year cycle. So again, with the 7 theme. And Bitcoin closed off that month of September in that year, the 7-year cycle, at 43K, and 4 plus 3 equals 7. It couldn't be any more perfect, and even more importantly, symbolic for that Shemitah year. And we won't have another Shemitah year till 2028. So keep that in mind for the wolves that'll be with us into the far distant future. Who knows what the world will be like in 2028, but regardless of what unfolds, I'm excited. I am very, very stoked for some projects that I have launching in 2026, and I'm not even going to say anything else. Just continue to build behind the scenes. So now let's come back here to 2025. Obviously, we want to focus on that because we're moving into September in a couple days, and consider the average gains that we see during the month of October. Over the past 6 years, we're about 20% on average. And if Bitcoin was to close this month off at similar prices that we're trading at right now, which is around 109, 108, maybe 107K, if we were to close off the month at that price, that would mean, given our average expectation, we would actually have a new all-time high for Bitcoin at 130K during October. And that would also be technically for the monthly close, because these are monthly candles that we're analyzing here. And I'm giving you data for the monthly, right? So this is where Bitcoin closed off at the last day of the month of October. So when we're seeing these big numbers like 20% to 40% and even 50%, that's very important to consider that these aren't just like in the middle of the month moves. These are monthly closes. So October is known to be a very powerful month for Bitcoin, okay? So given that data that we've just reviewed, you're looking at about 130K Bitcoin on the monthly close for us to hit that average percentage that we typically see over the past 6 years during the month of October. This actually aligns with what I said in the intro of last week's Red Pill, and what I also just restated again here in today's podcast in the intro, in regards to my outlook that by late October, we should see a new all-time high for Bitcoin. I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. I'm not just making this up. I'm here to prove it to you why I feel this way, because usually I give you the esoteric, right? The decodes. But here today, I'm just giving you undeniable facts about what has happened in the past with these exact months and how all the years align accordingly. So it's undeniable in that way. And I do want to stick to what it is because I have data to back that up regarding my own personal thesis and my outlook for how Q4 is going to go for 2025. And in the event that we were to see the average gains that we had for the 4-year cycle iteration, so that's the 2021, 2017, and 2013 iteration, we're looking at about 40 to 49%. So around 40% gains. This would give us 150K Bitcoin on the October monthly close, kicking off the month of November at 150K, which is a milestone. Now, I am not personally calling for that, just yet at least. I'm not calling for it just yet. But what's powerful here is that we at least have this data to build a stronger thesis than just plain guessing. Or what's even worse is the absurd upside targets that I've heard from some people calling for, $1 million Bitcoin before the end of the year. I don't know who's pushing these ideas around, but whatever. I'm going to focus on my art, keep it at that. So what I can entertain at least, and I feel comfortable saying with you guys, is 130K Bitcoin sometime in late October, but it doesn't necessarily have to be on the monthly close, because we have to remember that we're in a different energetic territory right now, considering that we've made it through 2 total lunar eclipses. We're deep into the lunar cycle right now. And this is where we go back to my work, like what I specialize in and what it's uniquely known for. So we've touched on this many times regarding the solar and the lunar cycles. We're still in a lunar cycle right now. We've passed through the second lunar eclipse, and we did hit that new all-time high right before eclipse season in August. And this would be technically the first time ever where Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. Again, we're speculating this could occur. That would be the first time ever that Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high past the second lunar eclipse of a lunar cycle. That would be legendary, showing that Bitcoin is insanely strong, regardless of the energetic shift that we're having regarding the astrology. So generally, we see our quote-unquote bear markets during lunar cycles, but Bitcoin is now in this new kind of essence where I've even shared my thoughts on this at the bear market of our last cycle that we were in, when we were in this zone right here, pushing into the month of April of 2023. During this time, I was saying to everyone that I think Bitcoin is like in the post-dot-com bubble era, where the dot-com bubble for most of crypto was in the 2021 to 2022 bear market. This was the collapse of Terra Luna, the UST stablecoin depegging, and then the FTX event that happened in November 2022, which, by the way, was on a lunar eclipse, just so you're aware. Both of those things that I named were on total lunar eclipses during our lunar cycle. Don't have too much time to get into it now. I do talk about it pretty thoroughly in my crypto decoding blueprint, which is a part of my decoding mastermind, available for you guys. Biggest discount available for being members of our mastermind community. But with that being said, I believe that Bitcoin is like the Apple or the Amazon or the Microsoft. It is like ironclad, just going to do well now that we've been through this mess. But a lot of altcoins, that's not the case. A lot of altcoins are still at their lows from 2022. So that means they're not powerful, they're unimportant, they were very, very speculative, and they were just part of the cultural moment that we experienced in 2021, and now it's game over. So just consider that is also kind of the case for a lot of the stuff that was built on the Solana blockchain in the recent future, these meme coins, if you will. I do believe meme coins will stay around for a little bit longer, but I'm just saying that theoretically, a lot of them have just been pump and dumps, and they've added no actual value to this space at all, right? Besides the cultural moment attached onto them. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has just hit new all-time high after new all-time high after new all-time high, and we still have Solana and Ethereum not hitting new all-time highs. Like, what's going on here? You're seeing, of course, XRP had a really nice breakout at the end of last year into early beginning of this year, and recently Binance token has looked amazing, BNB, right? But we're not really seeing across the large caps just all in price discovery like we have already been experiencing with Bitcoin for a long time now. I mean, technically Bitcoin broke into price discovery in beginning of this year, and beginning of 2024, and it's been really noticeable through Q4 of 2024, and here we are in Q4 of 2025. So we've had concretely new all-time highs for Bitcoin for a full calendar year, whilst ETH hasn't even really broke out and hit a new all-time high. So these are all things to consider with what I'm revealing to everybody about the lunar cycle and the solar cycle and how things are changing. So what else did I share back when I first introduced this idea into April of 2023 with the dot-com bubble and how I see Bitcoin becoming like the next Apple? Well, what happened with Apple after that major crash into the bear market post 2001, 2001, was that once it recovered, which took some time, by the way, obviously these things take a lot longer than it will in crypto. We move much faster. But pretty much what has happened to Apple since it's fully recovered is that it's just been perpetually going higher and only experiencing like 30 to 40% corrections. It hasn't had like a 70 to 80% bear market like we were seeing with cryptos. So let me just quickly show you a visual so you could all understand what I mean, because I feel like for some of you, you might not have seen the Apple chart, so you might be curious as to like, what is this guy talking about? Let me just show you real quick. So here we are, we're looking at the weekly chart for Apple, right? So we have this major peak in 2000. We have a major crash into 2003. It finally pivots. And then once we break above this peak of the dot-com bubble top, we only see these are the corrections moving forward. So we got 40% there, got 33% there, we got 40% there, 34% there. You know, we've also recently with the tariff crash, 30%. So that 30 to 40% correction thing, that might become Bitcoin's future. Now, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I don't own all of my whole net worth is not in Bitcoin, guys. So when I say this shit to you, don't take it personally if you're somebody who doesn't own any Bitcoin, or if you're somebody who's like an XRP maximalist and you hate Bitcoin, whatever your thing is. I don't care. The facts are here in front of us. We need to be neutral about this stuff. And I was neutral in this kind of discovery and this thought and my thesis, and it's been working out pretty much perfectly since, because Bitcoin's only been experiencing 30% corrections since we've had that major crash. And of course, now we could have a 40 to 50% correction ahead into our next bear market. But the problem is everyone's going to think it's going to go more because it's happened before, right? Everyone's going to think Bitcoin has to have a 70% correction. No. And what's crazy is Bitcoin doesn't even need to have a 30% correction anymore for random altcoins to lose 90% of their value. You see the change of character in this market? It was this moving into this new solar cycle that we've since completed has changed the entire game. It's like this Aquarian economy is coming a lot sooner than some people might imagine. Now, I know that's a lot to unpack. There's plenty of other things that I could talk about here, and I want to stay on track. But if you guys are interested in this sort of thing, I could definitely make like an isolated presentation to just talk about it more. I believe it would be very powerful to share how Bitcoin and this whole cryptocurrency market and the things that are to come on the world stage, such as digital IDs, blockchain technology becoming part of like voting. I mean, all the new Aquarian essence that's about to unfold that has been pretty much slow rolling out since C19 event back in 2020. And obviously ChatGPT and these AI utilities that we have pretty much free and readily available in the palm of our hands. This is all part of that quote unquote agenda as well. So crypto is absolutely part of it. You guys know this already. And this is why we need to change our mindset, because there are going to be things that unfold that are very difficult to navigate. And I believe here with our community, with all of our minds combined, you know, we're going to be ahead of the herd. Don't say that. I'm not saying that to be disrespectful to anybody. I'm just speaking real talk right now. After all, this is the Red Pill podcast. Now, getting back to what I was saying regarding Bitcoin and the price action, how I can entertain at least 130K Bitcoin sometime in late October. It doesn't necessarily have to be the monthly close, but if we went by averages and stuck solely to the data, and even if we only consider how the last 2 Octobers played out, that still aligns with 130K Bitcoin to close off October, starting the month of November at 130K. So as of right now, I'm sticking to my main thesis that we'll at least have a new all-time high sometime by mid to late October. As I said at the intro of today's video, hitting that 125K in October, likely by the October new moon on October 21st. So just keep that date in mind. If I really had to dial it in for you all, now you know the exact date to keep in mind as well. And by the way, October 20th, the day before the new moon, let me just quickly show you this. It'll be the day leaving 72 days left in the year, and that is the gematria of Bitcoin, 72. We have that right there. And another gem that I'll share with you a month in advance tied to Bitcoin is connecting the date of Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday, which was April 5th of this year. And we're going to be connecting that to November 1st of this year. And you're going to see that these two dates are 211 days apart. And on the surface, the number 211 seems insignificant, but I can assure you that it is absolutely significant, especially this year, because the number 211 is the 47th prime number. And that's the key code that we've been focusing on all year since Trump is the 47th president and we had the market crash. And the bottom of that market crash on April 7th, the 4-7 date, exactly 47 days after the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ topped out at their current all-time highs, or at their all-time highs before that crash started. And this date, April 7th, would be written 7-4 internationally. And on that exact date, Bitcoin hit 74K. So this 47 and 74 code is everything this year. And we know in the month of November, we'll have the 47th week of the year from November 17th through November 23rd, which perfectly aligns with the new moon in November, which will be November 20th. It's perfect. It's right there in the middle, in the midst of the 47th week of the year. So it would be absolutely legendary if Bitcoin tops and hits a new all-time high during the 47th week of the year. And if I had to dial in the exact date for you all, it would be November 19th. And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I kind of piecing this all together and I need to share it once I figure it out. Like that's the power and the value behind these red pills. So every week I get to do these deep dives in the charts and into these calculators. And once I have it in my mind, you guys get it immediately. There's no gatekeeping. There's no saving it for next week's shit. Like I don't do that. It's just right when I figure it out, it's being shared. So this is a fresh decode for you all, tied to some significant things for Bitcoin, notably the fact that November 19th is tied to April 5th, Satoshi's birthday, by 229 days. And this archetype called Satoshi Nakamoto turned how old this year? 50 years old, and 229 is the 50th prime number. This is perfection, how this is all tied together. Satoshi is Saturn. Saturn is the 21 in gematria, and you'll see that November 19th is a 21 standard date numerology. Also, it's the day leaving 42 days left in the year, and you'll see that in the reverse cipher here in Saturn. You'll also see the 69 code here in Saturn's gematria, and remember how in the last cycle, Bitcoin topped at 69K around the November new moon. I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. This is a cycle that Bitcoin plays out. Oh, and if I haven't blown your mind already, how about this? We want to tie November 19th to the last day of Saturnalia. This is something I don't talk about too often, but I feel like it's powerful for today's podcast because I made some big connections this morning. And here we are. We have from the last day of the Saturnalia festival on December 23rd to the date that we're decoding, November 19th. By the way, this is the origin of the Christmas story. It was originally the Saturnalia festival. But anyways, when you take from November 19th to December 23rd, this key date that I've decoded, it is 5 weeks apart. And we've just done this recently. I was showing you how 5 weeks is technically 4 weeks and 7 days. So that is your hidden 47 code. This is so important. And if you don't include the end date, this would tie to the 18th. And now this has that 74 code in it because the double digit date numerology of November 18th is 74. This is so important because this date is tied to the last day of Saturnalia by 4 weeks and 7 days. So a couple other things to mention about November 18th is that it's the day leaving 322 days in the year. This is the skull and bones number. And of course, the skull and crossbones symbolism, which is death in physical form. And who is death? Death is the Grim Reaper. That is Saturn. So Saturn is all of the symbolism behind skull and bones. And it comes full circle. So I know this was deep, but this is what you all come here for, and this is what I love to do. So based on everything I reviewed with you here, the 47th week of the year, which by the way, that's when these 2 dates that I pointed out will be. So it's incredibly powerful. They will be connected 4 weeks and 7 days to one of the most important ritual dates and ties perfectly to Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday. And here we are talking about Bitcoin, which is created by Satoshi. It aligns perfectly. And to wrap that all up, if we take from November 18th to April 7th, the 4-7 date, you're going to see that they are 225 days apart, and we're here in the year 2025. You remove the 0, you have the 225 code. Again, absolutely mind-blowing connections, all for the 47th week of the year, and I just gave you one tied to the 4-7 date. This is powerful, guys. So there it is. I believe the true cycle peak all-time high for Bitcoin should synchronize with these back-to-back dates of November 18th and 19th around the November new moon during the 47th week of the year. It would be so perfect by the code. And of course, depending on how things turn out between now and then, I'll reassess, because it's not difficult for me to imagine the Saturnalia festival being a contender for the all-time high date, given everything I just reviewed with you. And if that was the case, then we'd have a very similar cycle to 2017. Where Bitcoin topped in December on December 17th, by the way, over here. And what's so important about mentioning December 17th, Bitcoin all-time high in 2017, is because that's the first day of Saturnalia. So it's like undeniably perfect. And it was also right on the December new moon. And then a month later, we saw a majority of the altcoin market topping out. XRP, for example, topped out a little over 2 weeks after Bitcoin topped out. Ethereum took about 4 weeks after Bitcoin topped out. Doge took about 3 weeks after Bitcoin topped out, and all of which were hitting cycle highs shortly after New Year's at the very start of 2018. But consider also that this year we have the new moon on December 19th during Saturnalia, during Satoshi's 50th year, and 50 is symbolic of the Jubilee. And we have the snake year, and we're in the year of the snake, and 50 tied to Satoshi being 50. I mean, it's magical, man. Like, this has to be. So I am super open-minded to either or, whether it's the November new moon or the December new moon. They're both very perfectly coded. They both have happened before. Bitcoin's last cycle peak happened in November 2021. The cycle peak before that was December new moon 2018. And then the cycle peak before that was technically the December new moon, but it was like right there at the end of November. It's amazing. So if this was to happen again, it's just becoming more and more the most predictable asset to determine. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens if we do make it up there, because a lot of people, probably similar in all prior cycles, are going to expect us to go much higher. And that could be dangerous. So just like we're seeing some people flip very bearish right now, you usually see people get very bearish at the worst times. You usually see people get very bullish at the worst times, right? Now, consider that. Consider that if you're consuming any content on the internet right now that's maybe getting under your skin a little bit, getting you to get worried, getting you to, change your investment thesis, right? What I preach is stick to your plan. I'm not selling anything lately. I've bought when I was, looking at fear in the markets. So I think it's very important to just move accordingly to what you have done your due diligence on and you understand, and avoid doing what the herd's doing. Avoid doing what you're seeing other people start to get worried about. That's when you should start getting excited. Just always go opposite. But anyways, getting back to this, keep that in mind regarding the November and December new moons for Bitcoin. And also the fact that we normally see at least 3 months of alts pushing up before topping out, but a majority of those gains usually happen in the final 3 weeks to 1 month of that time frame. We can actually quickly review this with looking at XRP. I'm going to do that right now for you. So here we are, we're looking at the XRP chart, all-time chart going back to 2013. We're going to go to the daily, and let's just look at what XRP did in the last cycle, the last notable cycle. So we have here from December 7th up to the exact all-time high date, which was January 4th. And that is 28 days on the nose, so exactly 4 weeks. And XRP rose 1,500% after being sideways and boring as shit for, let me show you, 200 fucking days. Okay? What does this feel like lately? We've been boring and sideways and trapped in a horizontal trading range for even longer than that. So keep that in mind. This pivot could happen literally at any moment. Any somewhat positive news for the whole crypto market, not necessarily just XRP, could be what launches us into that 28-day straight move, which happened over here November of 2024. This is important to keep in mind because I know that the XRP people especially are getting worried right now. I mean, I'm a huge XRP holder myself. You don't hear me getting worried, all right? So just, again, sometimes you need to step away from social media. This stuff will poison your mind. But we just showed you this powerful end to the 2018 cycle. And if we were to get something similar this time around where Bitcoin is breaking out through October into November, like we typically see in seasonality, and then we do maybe get that top in December, but it's like we pump up and then we come back down and then we start the bear market off of that move. That would all align with the way that the alt season finished off as well back in 2018, where we saw as Bitcoin was breaking out in October, November, December, alts looked amazing. But it was that final push for the alts that came in after Bitcoin already topped out. And then we had, 2 to 4 weeks after that, seeing each crypto basket of cryptos finish off their cycles after Bitcoin. So even the most recent example for XRP shows this 28-day move. Let me quickly show you this. So we have December 23rd, which was this date, right? Or sorry, June 23rd, apologies. It was the pivot date off the bottom. And then we see measuring about 28 days later, which was this candle right here on July 21st. That was your top. So far, it's been trading lower since. Could arguably call that the highest all-time high for XRP, 28 days in. So this is very fascinating how XRP likes to move this way. But the fact that we're holding this range between $2 to $3 for, I would say, 300 days now? There it is, man, 300 days. That's a good sign that we built a lot of strength in the zone. And as we speak, the zone is considered a fair value by traders, clearly, if you can make it almost a full calendar year trading between the zone. And very recently, we're seeing this 270 as a support. So what we were getting rejected at before, over here, over here, over here, and even pretty much over here too, before extended downside moves, we're now back testing that over and over, 3 times the charm. So naturally we would want to hold these levels, but even with XRP, it has this tendency to pop up a little bit, do a spring, like a move like this, where it shakes out and liquidates everybody that's going long. There's a bear trap there clearly, and then we pivot. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's another move like that, because XRP loves doing that. Did it right there, Did it even right here, and right here. And it's always preceded by some pretty big moves. I mean, doesn't seem like much, but this was a 70% move. This move right here was almost 70% as well. And this move right here was almost 100%. So seeing a washout before that next move up, it's not weird. It always happens with crypto. It's just normal. So don't be shaken out if we get a move like that in October, because by the October monthly close, we could be looking at something quite different. So I hope that helps people with the psychology of all of this. Now let's keep it moving. So once we see the FOMO re-emerge in the crypto market again, tied to some narrative, of course, because that's how they love to do it, I believe from that date forward, for the following month, you'll see a major breakout in XRP, along with Doge, Solana, and Ethereum finally breaking out into price discovery in the mix. That would bring even more FOMO. Now, with that being said, just a final reminder and recap from last week's Decode, where I mentioned this week ahead starting tomorrow, and this could be very valuable considering what I was just talking about a moment ago regarding maybe a little additional shakeout, like a bear trap before moving up, especially in altcoins, because Bitcoin can regain dominance during these times. That code that I was telling you about has everything to do with the 47 code. So let me just quickly revisit this for you all, because we need to. Boom. All right. So we talked about this in the last Red Pill, so I hope you watched it. But of course, we have Donald Trump, 47th President of the United States. On this day, November 5th, 2024, he won the selection, which made him the 47th President of the USA. And if you measure from that date that he became technically the 47th President of the USA, all the way over to tomorrow, Monday, some of you will be watching this on this date, you can see they are 47 weeks apart. But technically, if you don't include the end date, and then measure from Super Tuesday to this Tuesday, you land on September 30th, being exactly 47 weeks since Trump won the selection to make him the 47th President of the United States. And for some bonus material, the number 47 is the 15th prime number. So you need to consider the number 15 as well in all of this, like how during the 15th week of the year, which started on April 7th, the day that we bottomed from that crash, that was during the 15th week. The tariff crash bottomed, and that was also the week we pivoted and started to recover towards new all-time highs. So since we need to consider the number 15 as well, I would like to shift your attention over to the fact that this week that we're about to move into is actually tied to Donald Trump's birthday, which was on June 14th, 15 weeks ago. So he's tied to this week ahead no matter how you slice it, from the time he won the election to his birthday by the code. And this is why I'm expecting something notable to happen with him this week. Not death or anything, and I would never wish that upon him or anybody else, just so you know. But something notable could happen this week for him. He'll likely be in the headlines for some psyop, and this will likely mark the pivot for the crypto market happening into the date of October 3rd, which I thoroughly decoded last week. So definitely check out last week's Red Pill if you haven't already. And then after this pivot between October 3rd through October 13th, which is the third quarter moon. This is a little bit more advanced, but it's something I teach. So between October 3rd and October 13th, we should be officially out of eclipse season and ready to recover higher into late October, which is exactly what I've been saying in my analysis for the past 4 Red Pills. And then if you want to bring it up, yes, we do have a Fed meeting at the end of October. Cool. Now, this is somewhat important, but I'm not even going to bother. I made the joke last week. So with all of that covered, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I made the joke about how boring it is to talk about the FOMC every single day. So anyways, with that all being covered, our community should be thoroughly prepared for the month ahead. This October Decoded, and of course we'll continue to track this week by week as things develop, and I'll be here with you, keeping you updated every step of the way. So since we've thoroughly reviewed the key dates, Let's get into these charts and review the setup into the week ahead, as well as our upcoming weekly close later today. And of course, we can't forget about the September monthly close that'll be in a couple days. So I just really quickly want to touch on gold. Where's gold at? All right, so we did have a little bit of a correction, now popping back up. 3,800 almost. Unbelievable. $3,700 gold during this month of September. Just mind-blowing performance. Silver almost at all-time highs. Can you believe it? It feels like it's taken a billion years, but we're approaching. We're approaching. By the way, silver is the 47th element on the periodic table, I'm pretty sure. I'm not so great at remembering these things, but there it is. Silver, 47th element, and we're in the 47th code connection, so almost it would be so gnarly if it hits $47 an ounce this upcoming week. 47 weeks after Trump, the 47th president, became president. Like, that'd be fucking crazy. That'd be crazy. Copper's at $4.70. Like, you can't make this shit up. Anyways, we're having fun here. This is really fascinating to see this code play itself through. Gold looking absolutely wild right now. Very towards overheated though. I mean, look at the monthly chart. Holy shite. 90 RSI, guys, on the monthly. This thing's looking like a fucking crypto right now. Oh my god. We haven't seen this RSI so high since, yeah, fucking 1979. Oh my god. Oh my god. That is the funniest part of today's podcast. We haven't seen a monthly RSI in gold so high since 1970 fucking 9. What? Oh god, this thing is gonna close the monthly candle and it's gonna be at like 93. This is cray. Whatever, bro. Clown world. Uh I shouldn't even continue this analysis. This is great. There it is. There it is, boys. Just keep it moving. This is too funny. All right, we're going to get back to the monthly. We want to look at the stock market. I mean, it's all going to be closing at all-time highs. There it is. So we're 1.5% on the Dow. We got 2.8. Oh my God, the S&P. And the NASDAQ, 4.65. This is great. This is wild. This is wild. The Russell, though, close, close. Can it peek its head over? That'd be great to see. Sorry, guys, I'm excited. We're at the 47th minute mark of today's podcast, and I'm feeling good. So yeah, this is unbelievable. Russell's peeking its head up. If it could concretely break above that 2,470, I mean, I would call 2,500 on the Russell with a weekly close would be fucking wild. I think it will really bring in some FOMO vibes for sure. God, September's always like a weird month, isn't it? But like, I feel like I've felt so normal this September because I expected everything to be this way. You know, like I just expected if we're not going to be seeing anything like particularly damaging to the crypto market, expect some weird ritual to happen on the world stage. We saw what happened with Charlie Kirk. They're like putting his face on like dollar coins now. I have no idea. They're probably going to make a holiday after this guy. Unbelievable. Like, anyways, I don't want to turn this into like a, what's his name? This comedian from Massachusetts. I don't want this to become like some weird stand-up. Sorry, I forgot the guy's name. Anyways, we should keep it moving. God, I gotta get back on the rail. Gotta get back on the rails here. We're looking great. I mean, September was a weird month, but everything we're seeing right now is looking pretty damn good. And I also, jokes aside, like how we have a crazy RSI in gold, which means we're probably going to get a little bit of that fold over, and that spill will go into crypto as we expected. So, I mean, it's just been an amazing month for gold, though. That I did not expect it to just be continuing all throughout to the monthly close. I expected a top in August or September, But now that we've completed September and we're still seeing this go up, like just wow, all the way into the monthly close is really impressive. Great though. I've also said with regards to my overall thesis, I'm not going to sell my gold anytime soon. I don't care what the fuck gold does between now and December, January, or February 2026. Doesn't matter to me. Unless you're somebody who has a like overwhelming amount of gold and you need the money, like you absolutely need it, then of course you do what is best for you. Like this monthly RSI looks fucking silly, okay? Like there's nothing wrong with de-risking, man. Like again, we haven't seen a monthly RSI like this since 1970 fucking 9. All right? Like come on now. Come on now. We haven't like in 2008 into the biggest bubble. Yeah, whatever, man. You guys get it. This is hilarious. This is hilarious. The gold FOMO is real. S&P, Dow, NASDAQ all closing at all-time highs in price discovery. The Russell is kissing it. Literally kissing it. This could be the highest monthly close in the history of the Russell 2000. So just keep that in mind. Let's go over to Bitcoin and hurry this up. 109K Bitcoin. On the monthly, we're 1%, so flat. Not so awful. Again, considering the fact that we had a lot of resistance from December of last year all the way up until about June of this year, and we've recently been back testing it for 3 months straight. So this isn't like the worst thing to see. What would be problematic is if we started closing like below 104K on the monthly, then I would say like, yeah, that's probably a problem. But then macro, we would need to see a closure below 82. Like we're so far away from that. So yeah, just consider the fact that coming down below 104 would definitely look shady, like it would look bad, but it's really not until 82, and that's so deep to the point where yeah, everything would just be destroyed. So consider this though, the fact that Bitcoin is known to have 30% corrections and 82 would be a 33% correction. That wouldn't be weird because last year, if I took from the exact top to this low, it was also about 33%. So if Bitcoin was to do that, and I think we also just did it this year, technically, right? Yep, about 30%. If we were to do that same move, we would still be holding structure. And I'm not calling for that now, though. That'd be very, very out of the ordinary. What I could expect, though, is that in like December, Bitcoin, after it hits the next all-time high and peaks, has about a 30% correction, and then it has a bounce, and then the bounce is a failed rally. So it's something like this, where come down, and then we bounce, and then it's a dead cat bounce. So the move is just up to like the 786 maybe. Like Bitcoin likes to do that shit. For example, we were to see that move up to like 140, maybe 150, Bitcoin would then have a 30% correction down to like 97. So we pull the fib down to 97, and then we would do something like this. Like that. And then this move might only be like a 50% correction. And it might happen like a lot sooner than people. Like it might be completed by May. We'll cover that later though, but that's something to consider. I haven't looked at this in some time. Every time we're trading under this is always like in this very quick V-shape vibe. So we can see over here we had this grind up also through October 2023. Here we just peaked below it a couple times, but the last time was September, which is the month we're in now. And then we could see over here recently with the tariff crash, we did get below it, but that was pretty much short-lived because we had a quick pivot. So yeah, this trend line doesn't mean everything, and we could probably adjust it to be a little bit more accurate as time goes, but it's generally been playing a very significant role in this in this whole run. It's not necessarily perfect though, as you shouldn't expect with cryptocurrency, because we have so much leverage, and now we have these ETFs and options and all these other instruments to move this, to smack this asset around. It's trading 24/7, 365. That's another element, so just consider these trend lines aren't everything. They're not gospel, but they do help a lot understanding the trajectory of an asset and the trend in general. And so far, we've been pivoting after every single eclipse, and that's denoted in this chart right here. So getting back to the traditional analysis, though, let me turn off all the noise. Monthly is looking fine. Obviously, it would look so good if we could just pop up back above 117K. I don't know if that's the case, but just consider. And also, if we were to make a move that quickly to get back to 117K by monthly close, I would consider then another correction into the full moon. Like nothing crazy, but like I would expect that to be like a false rally, kind of like a bull trap. Or sorry, it would be that we're currently finishing a bear trap, and then we would move into a bull trap, like the 117K, and then we would trade a little bit sideways, and then we would move up later in mid-October. That's still kind of the way that I'm assuming this will go down. So keep that in mind too. If we were to have this really quick buyback into the week ahead, it would probably be just a bull trap to liquidate everybody that was going short, that was getting worried over the past couple days, which tends to happen, like they love to fuck with everybody's sentiment. So weekly or monthly looking fine. Weekly, nothing weird about what we're seeing. We're just back testing. Boom, 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 boom. We're just back testing. This isn't bad at all. Holding the 21 EMA is obviously pretty crucial. We're pretty much there. And then holding the 55 SMA is a very important thing. So of course I would naturally like to see us not go back below 100K at this time. Keep that in mind. We got our wolf cross to the downside after our wolf cross to the upside. So this is a lot of indecision. Basically, Bitcoin is at like this value right now that a lot of, like, because it's all institutional, they don't really need much more of an all-time high. They're just kind of playing around with each other right now, and they know the moves that Bitcoin creates sends shocking waves through the altcoins. It creates major liquidation. So they're just using it right now as this weird cat and mouse game. But that's a big reason why I'm not entertaining 200K plus Bitcoin for this cycle, because they don't need that. And that's the people that are playing this game. Unless they start getting into like a bid war, which I don't think is going to be the case, because they're all part of the same team. Every country acts like they're against each other, but it's called a New World Order. Like, as George Carlin says, it's a big club and you're not part of it. And they act like they're all against each other, like this Ukraine, Russia, Israel. They're not, dude. This is all just using humanity as part of their big ritual. It's fucked up, but that's the reality that we're in. So, yeah, because Bitcoin's only really held by the institutional level and governments, they don't need 250,000 plus Bitcoin. And I don't really see how it's getting there unless something massive changes in the world. And it's probably a bad thing that would have to happen in the world in order to facilitate those prices. This is why I keep teaching people to stop wishing for such crazy prices, because I think it comes at the expense of a lot of other problems that you wouldn't want. You wouldn't want other people in humanity, the 99%, to struggle with. So yeah, that's always something to keep in mind. Remove the desire from this game and just treat it for what it is, and have bigger goals in life than what your crypto portfolio looks like. And I think you'll have a more honorable and righteous and morally sound future. But anyways, you didn't come here to hear my opinions about that stuff. Let's wrap up this analysis on Bitcoin. Pretty much looking like a W. Breakout is in the cards. Problem with Bitcoin with the W's is, like you can see here, is the second leg down of the W is deeper. Here, your W, the second leg down is deeper. Here in your W that you had, we were pretty much at the same time of year. So it's interesting to think where the new moon aligns with this, because after our partial solar eclipse, we've had this correction, and that's not weird. We pretty much see this all the time with Bitcoin. So if you were to look back at the last new moon in September, it was the October one. You see that we got to like late September, and then we had our new moon, and then we were pretty much dealing with correction. I'll tell you how many days past the new moon. 8 days past the new moon, we were dealing with this like choppy, weird, and day 8 would be tomorrow. So it takes some time. This is why I teach like a 5-day window or so after and before. So if we were to take 5 days after, it was literally the bottom. Now, again, this isn't a perfect science, but I'm just telling you. You take 3 days before, it was the top. Here was 6 days before was the bottom of the full moon. Okay, so that window really helps give people an understanding of how to utilize the moon phases. But right now we're just holding support. This looks pretty good. Let's move on to ETH. I would love to see ETH close a monthly above 4,000. I'm sure you would too. The fact that we had all of this go down though was pretty textbook altcoin stuff. Let's just look back at the last cycle and you'll see what I mean. This is not weird what ETH just did. So consider that we barely hit a new all-time high, and then we traded below the 888 fib. Let's just look at the last time we got up here. So we made it to the all-time high, and then we traded below the 0.5 fib. We made it back to the all-time high again, retested the 888 fib, and then we just had this weird kind of like grind to the upside. But the fact that we did what we did in 2021 should make you rest easy. You know, this crazy move back to all-time highs, and then this fuckery that happens between the all-time high and the 888, that is exactly what's happening as we speak. We had this crazy rally into the all-time high, and then all of this weird shit go down. So if I put on the 3-day and I show you both cycles simultaneously, you'll see that this move over here to this move over here was exactly this. It was the same vibe. We have the C19 crash. We have this move up and the retest with the backup. That was your tariff crash, move up, back test, and then straight line breakout to the prior cycle peak. Then once we got there, we had a lot of confusion. Are we going to go higher? What's up? What's happening? And then eventually it just released. And by the way, when it released, it had like this weird back test as well of the prior all-time high. So it could be something like this to consider. You know, could go like that. And it doesn't look like much, but if we were to make it all the way up to like, let's just say 5,500 or 6,000, and then your back test, that'd be pretty violent. That correction would be about 20%. Now in the last cycle, it was 35%. You see, you broke out all-time highs and back tested prior peak, and then had this W breakout into like what was pretty much the all-time high. Because this secondary double top that we had was, yeah, obviously a bull trap to the upside. So we're close, guys. Like, this is not weird. I hope this makes people calm. I'm not trying to like tell you what to do with your money or your life savings or your portfolio. Like, that's not what this is for. This is just sharing my thoughts on how I'm playing this whole move. And what we're seeing right now is not something that hasn't happened before. This is very, very normal price action. Let's look at XRP. XRP around 280. I've kind of covered XRP a little bit earlier, so there's nothing really, too much to say, considering we're at the same prices that we've been at for over 2 months now, trading around this support. But generally, I do like to see us holding this support level. Now, we did talk a little bit about this in a recent market update where we had a rejection point coming in late July, again in August, again in late August, and then since September, we had a failed breakout and back test of the critical support level, which was once a resistance. So that's really nice to see the fact that we're back testing what was a prior resistance also at a horizontal support level, that would be your macro 618 fib around 270. So that's a very, very important place for XRP. Ripple, of course, giving you 27 in Chaldean. We're seeing XRP hold that $2.70 range. This would definitely be nice to see us like technically break out in the way that we get past about 310, but XRP doesn't like to do that. XRP loves to disappoint before it fakes you out, so something like this would not be weird in my opinion. Again, I know it's like not what everyone wants to hear, but It's all about where it leads you. So again, even if it was some move like this, like October 5th or something like that, and then boom, just like this, same thing. We have this false move up and then boom, slam down, back test the same support level that was your prior resistance, wash out everything, and then keep it moving. Like, I don't want to make definitive calls and say this is absolutely what's going to happen. This is just stuff that I'm saying, like, don't be shocked if it happens, because it happens all the time. It's ultimately all about this. Where is it going, right? So I'll leave this on the chart. Oop, I think it took it away. So I'm basically saying like something like that. By November. Now, if this wants to repeat what it did in 2017, it would look like this. All the way until December. That's what it did in 2017. It was really sideways all the way until the final moment, which is effectively what we saw last year too, before the election. Just look at how sideways and boring this thing was for so long, from May 2022 through October 2024. That's 2 years, and it was just chopping. And if we really hone in on this level right here, consider this as that. Look at the breakout to the next breakout. It took about 479 days. Like, I'm not saying that it's going to be a repeat, but just this, we can be boring all the way till November thing. You know, that's why I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a combo of something like this. Of course, it also matters where Bitcoin dominance is. And again, just to remind everybody, I'm still anticipating on the low end, $8.60 XRP. The medium, like more about $14 to $15 would be upper end in my opinion. And like absolute crazy prices would be 22 to 25. I am not expecting higher than 25 this cycle. That would already be like 1,000% from here. That to me would be like, if that was to happen, it would be a day or two max. It would maybe be like a 4-hour candle. And we've seen this before where, let me just show you in the last cycle, where how much we did in the final 2 or 3 days. So the final 2 days was a 77% move. So considering this $15 price target, to go up 77% would get us to about $26. So we can hit 15 and then we could spend maybe 3 days trying to move up to 20 plus. It's fast, guys. It's not a sustained thing. And then it drops all the way back to below 8, probably a month later. So again, I've been very repetitive about my exit strategy on XRP. I don't want to spend too much time on that. When we start breaking out into price discovery, of course, I'll be tracking it more, directly, and I will share my thoughts as we go. Let's move on to Cody. Kati? Is it Kati? Is it Cody? I don't know. Anyways, we have a chart that goes all the way back to 2019, so well over a year of chart history. I'm not sure the last time I checked this thing, but damn. Spend some time. I'm going to remove that. This is your prior cycle. Oh God. So this, guys, is exactly what I was saying when I was talking about like the post 2021, 2022 crypto.com bubble, like how it is obvious when you look through these charts. And by the way, I'm invested in some of these shitcoin charts. Like I think Filecoin is a good example, maybe even Gala. There's a couple of them, but I am using those as venture capital. Those are 1% of my portfolio, 2%, 2.5%, maybe 3% in some instances. These are not huge positions for me. So let me just remind you of that. Having a 1% position in this Cody thing is fine because, I mean, again, if you have an exit strategy in hand and this thing was to recover back to where it was in March 2024, or if it was to hit a more technical move like the top of the golden pocket, that's 750 fucking percent. Get out. Just leave this trash and move on. A lot of this stuff is going to continue to just become more and more irrelevant and useless. And these like meme coin, this I don't believe is a meme coin, but what I'm saying is I don't think we're going to have another meme coin moment like we did at the end of 2024. I'm sorry. I just don't think. I think the launch of Trump coin was the definitive end to it all because it's like, look, this is the most famous person alive. He's launching his own admittedly meme coin and they control the whole supply. It's absolute sham. I don't know where it's trading at today. It's probably still 80% down from all-time highs. And the point is that in my opinion, that was the end of the ritual. So they had of course, there's going to be pump and dumps every day for the rest of eternity. But generally, like where the energy and focus is mostly on memes, I think that's done. I think Pepe like reinvigorated what was happening like at the Sheeb times. Pepe created that this cycle, and then it led to this like unraveling of weirdness. You had the Hawk Tuah coin and a couple other things, and then Trump's launch was like the end. Nothing, I don't think, will ever be the same after that. You know, Millet had a coin that was an absolute fucking sham. Kanye came out a coin sham. Like it's all just pump and dumps, right? So in my opinion, it was a ritual. It was a ritualistic with Trump's launch and Melania's launch as he gets ushered in to be the quote unquote crypto president. How ironic. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is all relevant to what I'm sharing with you here in this first chart for our list of coins today, because it'll get you to understand where I'm coming from with some of this. So I think we're never going to have that meme coin thing again. It got so out of hand, you know, the peanut and all, like it's so out of hand. The pump fund shit where like people were like threatening their lives with the projects they were, it's crazy. Crazy. It's over. It can't get crazier than that. Okay. So yeah, those are my thoughts. And I think the fact that there's so many charts that I pull up like this that are trading at bear market bottom, they've made no progress. They're still trading as low as they were in 2022, 5 fucking years ago, while Bitcoin was, you know, like whatever. It's already gone up. How much? Let's just do a quick November 2020. Like, let's go to here, July 2020 for Bitcoin. What was Bitcoin trading at in July 2020? 9,000 fucking dollars. Bitcoin is up 1,100%. And we're looking at this thing, it's the same price. You know? So you need to be very good at trading to be a part of this gambling casino. And I would say that if you have anything that looks like this, any coins that look like this today, get rid of them 100% when they appreciate in the next move up. Because when we move into a bear market, you thank me later. Like this thing you would have wanted to have de-risked because we're down 94% on this project since the last all-time high. While Bitcoin, on the other hand, is up from its double top all-time high. It is up 74%. Like you could have bought the top on Bitcoin and you would still be up today. This thing, it's just perpetually down. So I'm not like being against this project. I don't care if you're somebody who invests in this. I'm just trying to like help you with the wisdom of what to do next, which is get out of this thing when you can. Everything is going to look very, very terrifying. And in my opinion, in 2026, all of this stuff is going to look different. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of it goes to zero too. But yes, kicking this one off strong. I've given somewhat thoughts to consider with regards to the 702 fib, maybe up to the 888 fib. That would be the levels that I would definitely plan on. Like this thing is going to be very overbought. And in the last cycle, we had really key top projects not even able to break higher than the 888 fib. They weren't able to go into price discovery. So just consider that this one doesn't have to go into price discovery. It doesn't even have to go to the 888. I would put concentration around this golden pocket because that was where it was struggling with in the last cycle. So let's move on. We have AIOZ. Alrighty, so this is already made an amazing G's. So October 2023 to anything in this upper range was a 7,000% move, and now it's like toasted. The reason it's toasted is because, as you can see here on this white line, we were treating it as a support 1, 2, 3 times before this UTA. Like this would be an up thrust. So this is a very common move in Wyckoff. Even XRP did this recently. Let me show you. So XRP has a high, and then it has a little bit of a correction, and then it makes another new all-time high, but only a slightly new high, and then it has an even deeper correction than the initial correction. This is very normal price action for a crypto. So you have your high, bit of a correction, consolidation, you move up for a slightly new all-time high, and then again, it's a bull trap to the upside because then you get washed out. You go into an even deeper correction than the one you previously experienced. So very devastating. Oh, goodness, 86%. Fuck, right? That's pretty crazy. Now, why this is dusted is because you can see what was a prior support is now pretty much becoming a resistance. You want to keep that in mind. I do believe I see a pretty clean trend line here too. Yeah, so where it's going right now is just getting perpetually rejected at this trend line, and I would also consider the fact that when I drew this fib, I'm not sure if it was before it hit this target or after it hit this target, but I had a reverse fib pulled from this low up to the swing high, and it shows you the 1618 to the downside, and we hit it perfectly on April 7th, the crash date. Now we're coming back into the same territory we were at in June. And this is looking like a typical September, like very weak in general for altcoins, as Bitcoin is looking pretty strong. And yeah, this could even in October go a little bit lower, 22 cents or so. The thing that everybody wants to know is this worth investing in? Well, like in my opinion, I would say no. And the reason why is because it's already had its explosive move. And when it does a thing like this, it becomes untrustworthy. So from where we are to retesting prior all-time highs is about 300%. Sure, that's a really a big move for most. I just wouldn't personally want to like get involved in this. If I already was involved in this, I would just be planning exit strategy. I would not be trying to put fresh money in a chart that looks like this. This does not look like something I want to look at this. Right? Like this does not look like something that I want to get invested in. But yeah, it's not the worst chart on earth. It's obviously had a crazy move to the upside. So if you were somebody who was able to profit from this, congratulations. It's incredible. But now it gets kind of questionable, sort of precarious territory. So let me remove this and let me just show you what some upside fibs are looking like, because I could of course entertain, I don't know about this, but I could entertain this, like a move to two, and then from where we are, that's a nice move if we can get to two. But it's hard for me to entertain higher price targets at this time. I think generally this thing has done what it's needed to do. So I'll mark two. And then also keep in mind that this levels have already been accomplished. So I'm going to turn those green. And then this one is like, get the fuck out. Like this is going to be a collapse if it goes below there. And then this would be your sell. So like I would put maybe like $1.70 even. Again, from where we are right now is a 500% move. So exactly at the 1628 is very tough, but that gives you something to look out for regarding price discovery and a push higher. I would have a very hard time entertaining this $4 level though, but it's funny how it's $4.70, like the 47 code we've been talking about. We'll see. I don't think it's the case though. It's a little too much for me on this project. Let's move on to Crow. Whew, what was this move? What happened recently? It's like a Dogecoin thing. It just had a major move up and then a major move down. What's so fascinating about the Crow chart is when you zoom out, you're like, wow, it's been sideways since it was invented, which is very fascinating because this is 2020. And like, I know whatever move just happened recently might look impressive, but this was 1,800 days ago. It was trading at the same fucking price that it is today. So yeah, like I mean, about time it had a little bit of a move. I wonder why though. Ooh, okay. There's a 3-day candle that was 100% up. So this, you guys must be interested in that, right? That somebody must be talking about this just because of this. Okay, why did this happen? You guys could let me know. What was the thing? What was the update? What was the thing? Did Donald Trump talk about it? Did Eric Trump talk about it? What happened? Is like World Liberty Financial Plumbing buying it or whatever? Shout out to plumbers, by the way. Like, you guys are actual legends. I'm being serious. My future plans for the world are just like get all the people who have these types of skills because they're gonna be so useful in the future, in my opinion. And I'm being sincere. In a world where like we don't even like value a plumber, but we value, fucking Donald Trump's tweets. Or like, what is Elon thinking about right now? What's Elon's opinion about immigration? Like, who gives a fuck? We need electricians, man. We need to know how to like we rely on Wi-Fi. We don't even know how Wi-Fi works. We don't know shit about shit. We're worried about fucking Elon's immigration opinions. It's wild, man. Anywho, yeah, Crow. I don't know about this, but broadening megaphone pattern though for sure. Livermore, shout out to Jesse Livermore. I mean, it's a little dirty looking, but like it is a thing. Clearly, we're getting. Oh, dude, this looks so similar to Doge. This looks so similar to Doge, for sure. But the step by step here is there's a clear support sitting at around 7 cents, which is hilarious because that's coming back to all the sevens that we were talking about before. And Chronos is Saturn, and Rosh Hashanah is the seventh month in the Hebrew calendar. That's when their New Year's is, and that's when the harvest is. That's tied to Saturn, Chronos. So yeah, the seven code, very interesting. And the highest it ever went was like pretty much 99 cents, so it almost hit $1. And I do think Crow has the possibility of hitting $1 this cycle for sure. We're close. It's about 450%. Let's see where this 1618 would be. 150. All right. Yeah, that's good. I could I could see that. Again, coming back to remember we were talking about 47 is the 15th prime number. We have that 15 code. And if this has Saturn symbolism, then obviously like it's going to be all the gematria numerology stuff that you could possibly learn, you could apply. So because it's just too easy. They're using the hexagon symbol. They're calling it chrono. Like they're not hiding shit. So it makes it very easy for you to decode in that way. Yeah, so I would say that $1.50 is in the cards for Crow. Where is that from where we are right now? A nice move. Again, I don't think it's gonna be like this or this or this. It's gonna be fast. It's gonna be real quick. Nothing sustainable. Like if it breaks $1, it could go from $1 to $1.50 in like 2 days, and then it would be on a downtrend, just like this. By the way, like if you look at the structure of like how this broke out and you just copied it, it's pretty like similar prices to where we're trading at now. So yeah, that wouldn't shock me. Like, even in like mid-November, if it takes time, and then boom, December, it's just straight line kind of deal. Something like that. Doesn't matter with the timing so much. But this type of move over here, where you see we have a correction and then we get bought back up like a V, and then it pops off, that could be the way that Kronos breaks out. So yeah, keep that in mind. This is very fascinating that we recently had this crazy move. I'm sure there's something important about it that I didn't hear of because I'm living under a rock. All right, now we're looking at Proppy. This was a project that I believe I invested in for like a short moment, and then I pulled out of the investment because I just didn't really trust what I was getting myself into. And I've rotated since into things that I believe in more, like HBAR and XLM. It's been a great decision. So yeah, I don't want to diversify too much. I feel like that's like a hard thing to not do here in crypto because it's so easy to just want to invest in everything. And then Coinbase like has all of these coins that you can invest in now, and it's just like it's hard, it's tempting, right? But it's, again, what's part of my philosophy and something that I teach in my university, something that I also teach a lot in the expansion mastermind course, is like the concept that being disciplined in in being conservative is very difficult. So like what I say is extremism is easy, or being extreme is easy, and being conservative is difficult. And this comes to like what's fascinating about being a crypto investor is like, what would extremism be? Well, then you have the XRP army, you have the Bitcoin maxis, like you have these people that are just like unable to accept anything else that could be balancing out their thesis in their portfolio. And then on the other hand, you have the people that are extreme with how much they diversify, where they have like 30, 40, 50 different altcoins that they're holding. And that's very extreme. And then they don't know how to manage any of them. They don't know how to set up an exit strategy on any of them. They don't know what to do when they start losing a ton of value, and they're very hard to track. So they're very hard to understand like their performance over time. Yeah, and then you end up with some problems. But like, if you had a portfolio of 8 or 10 investments, I think it would be a lot easier for you to manage, to create an exit strategy, to understand more about the projects that you're holding, and also to let go of losers a little bit a little bit more easily. When you have a bunch of investments, letting go of losers requires you to like do some analysis, unless you're like somebody who's very emotional. Then of course you're panic selling or whatever. We're not talking about that here, of course. But anyways, getting back to this proppy thing, it was a project that I invested in for a little bit. I saw some patterns that I didn't like, that I saw repeating. Obviously, this has like a tendency to get to around $3.50 and then major rejections. It's happened back in 2018. It happened in 2021. Into the early 2022 timeframe, and then it just recently happened in April of 2024 last year. And look at where it went in April of 2025 this year. So like, it's had, during that whole time frame, 1 year, it had an 88% correction, which is like a bear market. So yeah, like this is a very interesting technology, and I believe that this is part of the future regarding the tokenization of real estate, but it doesn't necessarily mean proppy is the category winner here. You got to remember, guys, that if these things are going to be used at a large scale, it's going to be your government. It's going to be your banks that are the current too big to fail banks are going to be the ones that offer the product. It's not going to be some random tech startup, fintech company. Trust me. I know that's like heartbreaking, but it's just the way that it is. If anything, they use companies like Proppy or Ripple or Chainlink or any of them. They use them. They use them. They use their founders, their CEOs. They use them. They weaponize them. They turn them into the underground man, where they have to follow rules in every aspect of their life if they want to have that opportunity. They have a situation that makes them more like a slave than a free, quote unquote, pioneer slash technological genius, or whatever you think they are. They have to sign up to follow orders, or else they get ousted. It's a sad and tragic truth, but it just is what it is. And now you know why they say what they say to you when they say it, because it's all about the world's a stage. You know, the world's a stage. So coming back to the proppy thing, I just made some realizations that it's no point of continuing to diversify into stuff like this. Let me just stick with what I believe are more category winners. And that's not to say that this isn't a great trading opportunity, because clearly it's given you tons of volatility. So if you're a professional trader, have fun, know when to get in, know when to get out. But that's not my favorite thing to put my energy into anymore. I would rather continue to work more on myself as an individual, as a business owner, make better products, create things that are more useful for the world, and not just have 1,000 different altcoin holdings. So hopefully that helps you all with investment thesis in today's podcast. It gets you to be more well-rounded at this stage of the cycle. That stuff's very important, man. Very, very important. But again, during an alt season, this will appreciate in price like everything else does. So keep that in mind. Now, as for me anticipating price discovery in this thing breaking above $6, I'd have a very difficult time to entertain that. Sorry. Could it come back to the area that it's been continuing to get rejected off of? Yes, of course, $3.80. Will it absolutely, can it break into price discovery? Of course. It's not that it can't. It's just I wouldn't be expecting it. This type of trading behavior, whilst what we're seeing with Bitcoin and things like XRP and Ethereum and Binance token and Solana, this is very, very weak. And it's looking like all the other shit right now. So just consider that it'll do well when everything's doing well, but in isolation, it's not doing anything particularly special. Let's finalize this with grass. Grass. Is this a meme coin, guys? Are you guys punking me? Is this like Ashton Kutcher punked? Okay. To be serious though, I've never looked at this project. This is a first for me. Grass. I'm gonna play around with some fibs real quick just to get an understanding. So we have this initial fib pull, which I'm doing right at this level here because we had a couple of swipes above that level of about $2 on the nose, but it's really there where we got rejected and headed into this leg lower. So that's why I like pulling the fib that way. But I need to pull it like that. Now it's magical. So you see what I'm doing? Like, let me just put a line across the screen at this level, and now you could understand, like, what the hell is he doing? Why is he doing that? Here. So what I do when I pull my fibs in reverse to get downside targets is I like to look at points to the left where we're getting multiple support bounces, and then ultimately I like to look at the point where we broke. And here was the point where we back tested and broke down. And it's pretty clear because from that correction onwards, we made a significant new low. And what we could see when I have this in a linear pull, so this is not toggled on, is that our 1618 is sitting at around 90 cents. And funny enough, that was our initial stopping point, and then we went even lower after that. And this thing is now trying to find where is its true value, because when it was launched, it went straight from 17 or 15 cents all the way up to $4 fucking dollars. Okay, so this was a magical play if you got in at the very beginning and sold it immediately, just like every other fucking shitcoin meme coin out there. Everyone does this. And then it's what happens after that needs to matter the most. Because if you weren't one of the people who got out, and if even worse, you were one of the people who FOMO'd in, well, then you're dealing with this shit today. So learn lessons from all of this because every meme coin does this. The Kanye token did this. The Trump coin did this. Every coin does this. It launches, it has insane move up in the first, week or two, and then it loses all of the value. And then it gets dangerous because it has no fair value. Like, it is just pure speculation. It could continue to fill between 60 cents all the way down to 30 cents, and it wouldn't even be weird. It would actually be almost a necessity because you went and you never filled in anything lower than this from here down. So we're talking from 90 cents all the way down to 10 cents. There is no trading range. We're just starting to do it today. We're just starting to do it now. You filled out this $1 to $2 range a lot, but nothing below it. So if this comes up to this area and gets rejected again and it can't hold this support, guess what? It's going to fall down again. And you could figure out where it's going to fall down to using the same exact trick that I'm teaching you, which would be the reverse fib pull. So it's a little tough because what we're doing here is we're pulling a fib now from this level to this level. Let me show you with another horizontal line. So the same way I did it before, I'm finding a support, and then a break. So now your next major move to the downside is 37 cents. If it breaks the current support of around 60 to 70 cents. So just keep that in mind. This can fall down one more time. And from where we're at today, based on this like the three swipes up to almost $4, it's already down 77%. So having an 82% correction is not weird. I just showed you Proppy moments ago. It's lost 88% from its top back last year. So this is just doing a normal move like every other coin. The difference though about Proppy in this project is this project has no prior chart history besides this launch in October of like 1 year ago. So this can still fill out all this liquidity to the downside. I feel like this was an insanely valuable TA lesson to teach you guys, even amidst some of the earlier comments that I made, having fun, poking fun at this thing. But yeah, just consider that that's how this can all go. Now, get that out of the way and let's pull a traditional fib and let's consider that we have bottomed. That'd be music to everybody's ears. And then price discovery, you're looking at about 573, maybe. And what we're going to deal with is this white line again. So when we recover, That's the area that I think could potentially be as best as it gets. And if we do get a euphoric move for everything and this gets to ride the wave of that, then sure, you can get a slightly higher price discovery and it would turn out to an upthrust in a larger bear market ahead. So again, it could be something like this. And then this can continue to just go lower and lower and lower forever. I know it seems extreme, but guys, just study the charts. It happens all the time. It happened last cycle with so many projects. So yeah, just consider what we're talking about here. If you're a brand new investor, avoid this kind of stuff, man. There's no need to play this game, especially this late in the cycle. So we're going to wrap this one up here. We had a super jam-packed podcast, and I'm really excited to see how this week ahead goes because, as I told you, we are dealing with uncharted territory for Bitcoin past the second lunar eclipse of our lunar cycle, and we're looking generally really good, all things considered. I am not really feeling too worried at this time regarding where we're at. And then we're up ahead. We have this November month, which we've already covered in the past, but I will definitely be focusing on more as we progress. And this month of November has so many significantly positive astrological things going on, notably the final Mercury retrograde of the year. We have the ending of Saturn retrograde at the same timing. I mean, man, what do you say? Like, things are looking really good. We have a lot of charts here that I haven't really been talking about. So maybe what we'll do next week is I'll review some of these additional charts that I've talked about in the past that, you know, we could recap on. But for now, I'm going to wrap this one up here. I appreciate and I'm grateful for every single one of you. Wishing you all an amazing rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.